Good afternoon. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting on March 3rd. I'm going to let Council President Kuda explain what's going on with roll call.
Okay, so in order to have a quorum, I'm a member of the committee and I am appointing Craig Cobb, a member of the committee for today, so that we have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Also joining us are Vice President Russell, Councilmember Petrus, Councilor Cobb. Well, Cobb's on the committee now today temporarily, and also members of the Finance Department, Director Hairston, the Mayor Sarin is here, and our also Director Willie Feltz. And Frank Ike is here from CUNY. And Director Klinkskill, will you join us at the table, please, and so that we can do your section of the agenda and then you can go home.
Yeah,
Sorry, coming straight
And
from
let the record show that Councilor Maddox just joined us. Thank you, Director Klinkskill. I'm gonna let President Kuda take the floor because he has some questions for you.
Sure.
Thank you, Director Klinkskill. So I'm just looking at the capital expenses for Department of Public Works. I see you have $2.3 million set aside for annual street resurfacing and $195,000 for Altamont road resurface. And then I understand that we're also gonna put some money that's not part of either of those towards Euclid Heights Boulevard.
No, Euclid Heights Boulevard is part of the $2.3 million.
Okay, so question, how many road resurfacings does that $2.3 million represent?
Probably about 8 to 9 streets we'll be doing out of that road resurfacing pot.
And what do you estimate the capacity of your department to do road resurfacing in a year? What would be the most, and is there a season for it? I would assume that, maybe April to, what months do you usually do road resurfacing and?
It's usually in the summer. We usually try to bid that project out in March or April. And it's usually June or July that they start. And we try to be done with the program in late September, early October. We can't get concrete after November. Contractors can't get concrete after November. So it's usually like late summer that we're doing our road program.
Okay. And I take it with your staffing, your current staffing, and materials and money, again, what would be the capacity for your department to do road resurfacing? Could you do more with what you have now, or would you need more staffing and more, obviously you need more money?
Right now, we do our road program, we contract out that work. I mean, that's a big construction job that we do. We do small stuff like potholes, and we do any road repaving or restructuring or rehabilitation for all of our Cleveland Water Department repairs. Cleveland Water, they actually come in, they do the repair, and then we're required to do the road rehabilitation after that. So that's done in-house, again, along with potholes. And any sewer infrastructure type of job, that's done by internal staff. So we do that with our staff, our equipment, our material. And that's about our capacity to do that type of work. You need like large equipment and what have you when you come by doing an entire street, curb to curb, the length of a street. We don't have the capacity to do that. No way, no how.
Okay. So, as every city, we get, complaints about the condition of the roads. So is there anything else council can do to allocate monies for road repairs, resurfacing, and what would you need to accomplish that if there were more that you could do?
Actually, Madam Chair, just to leapfrog over the director a little bit, not that I want to stop what she has to say, but I do want to provide a little bit of top-down context. We have historically used gas tax and CDBG funds to pay for the road work that we do in Cleveland Heights. We could potentially do more if council saw fit to provide some sustainable funding source that would exceed those. There may, we'd have to have a longer conversation maybe about CDBG and whether or not repurposing CDBG away from certain other uses and adding CDBG funding to the road program might also be a possibility, but we would probably have to have a longer conversation with finance, public works, and community development in order to determine whether or not there's capacity there to do more with the CDBG funds. But just before the director responds to that, having some additional or repurposed funding source in order to expand the amount of work that we can do on a yearly basis might be something that the council and the administration can discuss moving forward. We can always contract out more if there are contractors to do the work and are willing to do the work and we have the money to do it.
All right, thank you.
Well, I didn't want to, the director was going to respond as well, but I just wanted to provide that context.
Can I just ask one question? Just so when you say sustainable, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, you would hope that it would be sustainable unless you just wanted to do it for some period of time. And then
No, what do you mean by a sustainable funding source?
One that can be sustained over time. That's just the basic meaning of the word.
Doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It stays in our budget.
Right, no, I know, but I mean,
Historically, the road program has been run out of our gas tax money. And we receive about $1.6 to $1.7 million in each year for that. And that's what we've, in the past, allowed to do our roads. And if we could get any type of funding through CDBG, which we did get for Altamont, then that's in addition to the $1.6, $1.7 million that we've allotted for our road program.
Ultimately, I guess the idea is if council wants to work with the administration on sorting out some funding source beyond those two traditionally utilized funding sources, I would be very happy to have that conversation. I think that we could do more when it comes to road projects in particular because we're seeing a difference in how our roads are standing up to a changing set of weather patterns. We're seeing more and more freeze-thaw cycles, and that's having a demonstrable negative impact on the condition of our roads. Doing more road resurfacing projects each year would probably help to mitigate some of that concern, especially when hot patch isn't available through a great chunk of the time that we're discussing and certainly the time that we're dealing with right now. To address the potholes in a convenient way. And the freeze-thaw cycles changing means that the way that we've traditionally done this work just isn't sufficient to address all of our needs. So I think if council would like to have a conversation about how we can fund an expanded road program, I think that would be a lovely conversation to have. So I just want to make sure everybody knows I'm on board with having that conversation.
When does the administration start to look at the CDBG funding for, because they'll be starting to look at that in the near future for the other components of the CDBG. So when do you start to talk about the use of the funding?
Well, we make recommendations. I mean, we're
Right.
constantly in conversation between Public Works and Community Development.
Okay,
But the CAC makes recommendations.
Yeah.
The administration makes our recommendations to the CAC, who then makes recommendations to council for the funding decisions.
okay.
And that's an ongoing process in the conversation between Public Works and Community Development. And then our Community Development staff is the one coordinating the conversation at CAC.
Okay.
And we apply just like any other applicant each year.
That does not have to be the case. You know, there's always the room for adjusting the process and determining that certain specific city functions are not sort of lumped into the same process that everything else goes into. You know, but that again is a decision for council to make. So we can adjust that process if council sees fit. Right now, I know that the council uses the CAC in a particular way, and council would have to use the CAC in a different way in order to accommodate that kind of change.
Councilor Petrus.
Thank you. Our city's population is about 43,000 and our city is about 8 square miles. I've been looking at other communities in the area, and Shaker, for example, is about 6 square miles with a population of about 29,000. They are allocating about 2.5 million for 2025 for their road program. We are allocating about 2.3, and after the $250,000 match from the county, we are putting in about 2 million. Looking at other municipalities, it seems like what we hear anecdotally and what we see ourselves, the condition of our roads is backed up by the data that other communities are spending more. And so I think that it would be good if we were to come up with, there are different ways that you could do it, but try to have a goal for an amount of money that you'd want to spend on an annual basis to maintain things. And I would like to propose that this year we start with increased funding and consider maybe as much as $2 million additional dollars. And there are lots of places where we could consider funding that through, but I think that we should really consider it.
I mean, I'm for that. I'm for having that conversation the mayor was talking about. I think we could do more. I think we need to do more.
Okay, I think we, council, all of us would agree. So was there anything else? President Kuda?
Not from me, for
Anybody else? For Director Clinkscale?
If I remember correctly, there was an additional position that would help with capital projects. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, and do you think, let's say council allocated more funding than what's being requested for the road program, that additional resource would be able to help with ensuring that contracts go out for those projects? Do you think that you'd have enough capacity? Okay.
Yes, we'll have additional help.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to say thank you very much, Director Clinkscale, for coming tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I want to let everybody know we have a very hard stop at 5:55 because council is due in at a hearing at 6. So that gives us 5 minutes to transport ourselves. I think we can do that. Mayor, if you could give us, I can give you 10 minutes to update us on where we're at with the revisions that you indicated to me were gonna be made on the financial statements, and let us know what our unencumbered balance changes, that sort of thing. I'd really appreciate it.
All right, well, I think first, what we'll start with is, again, and I urge all of you to be diligent in your review of the 2025 budget information webpage, which can be found on our website. All of the documentation here is largely updated. Some of it did not need to be, but if we want to start maybe with the fund summary, just so you guys can get a larger global view of where we end up, first of all, at the end of 2024, and then where we begin 2025, our expected budgeted revenues, expected budgeted expenditures, and our projected ending balance at the end of 2025. So what we're looking at right now is a projected $28.5 million in unencumbered general fund reserve at the end of 2025, with expected budgeted revenues in 2025 of $59 million and expected budgeted expenditures of $58 million. We're expecting a little bit of a surplus in the general fund, which will take our current ending balance for 2024 from 27.3 million up to that 28.5 million if we're rounding. You wanna take a look at the all funds total. We started 2024 with around 75 million in unencumbered funds. And that excludes ARPA. I'm excluding ARPA from this entire spreadsheet because we're not budgeting for ARPA in 2025, and I prefer not to confuse the issue. So our total revenue in 2024 and total expenditures in 2024, we're looking at 100 million if we're rounding up, and 104 million in expenditures, which took us down to a $70 million all funds ending balance. Are you looking at an old version, Craig?
Yes, I am. I'm assuming you're gonna
Pull it up on the computer.
explain the changes from the prior report.
Well, these are all, situations where we've got encumbrances included in this 2024 expenditures. Obviously, not all of those encumbrances are necessarily actual obligations, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. We'd rather be more conservative than less conservative. So this total 2024 expenditures also includes our total expenditures, and also that $5 million in, $5.4 million in actually, I sent that over to the chair. I haven't sent it to all of council yet. But I'll do that after this meeting, so you can see the transfers out from the general fund into funds that would otherwise be in negative balance status. Council authorized the administration to make transfers up to $10 million in order to do that at the end of last year. And we did not come close to the $10 million, but we got up to about 5.4 million in transfers. And sort of finalizing all those numbers takes us to expenditures plus encumbrances of 104, 378, 622 and 11 cents at the end of 2024, which takes us to that $70,364,484.39. Now again, what you saw in the financials for 2024 included ARPA dollars. And so what you saw, I believe when we originally gave them some information, it was around 73 million. And part of that 73 million was $3 million. We discussed this in the last meeting. I don't know if anybody remembers, but part of that 73 million was around a little over $3 million in ARPA expenditures that had not been encumbered in the system, but had been encumbered in reality. This document does not include ARPA because we're not budgeting for ARPA in 2025, so it doesn't even include that those ARPA dollars. If we were including ARPA dollars in this, the total 2024 expenditures would be dramatically higher. Something like what, 130 or 140
For the revenue or expense?
for expense? Was it 150, maybe 151? Am I,
I forgot the exact number.
it doesn't really matter for these purposes.
Mayor Saren, since you brought up my name, the transfers that I received from you this weekend.
Yeah.
In a total of $5,494,437.
Yeah.
The money is all coming from the general fund 101.
Correct.
So I want to know if we're gonna receive a revised December 31, 2024 financial statement that will show us what the balance is in the unencumbered funds.
That's this, but did you?
I got one too.
You already sent them one?
I didn't send it to them.
Oh,
I have one.
Feel free to send it over to them.
I have a hard copy, but it includes ARPA.
That's fine. Yeah, the end of year financial should include ARPA. This shouldn't.
And you have told me that all of these transfers, which amount to $5.494 million, the narrative is that it's because there are negative balances in these funds. So
That there would otherwise be negative balances in the absence of those transfers.
okay, so let's just look at Fund 208, for instance,
Okay.
as an example. Oh dear. 208 is the CDBG resource, and that's probably not the best one to use. Let's look at 226,
Let's say,
which is the Lead Safe program, Cuyahoga County. And on the report that we got on the 25th of February,
Two
Yeah.
different. Oh, sorry.
Wait, are they?
Is this just one copy?
Oops.
I don't know if you got this one, Craig.
One of each.
Yeah, that should be one of
I don't think you got this
them.
one.
Oh, you need one of the, yeah. Oh, Craig.
You got them?
One like this?
Yeah, do we have extras?
Yes.
This is December. Did you get this?
Yeah, this one.
No. Was this just handed out?
Yes. Yes, it says December 24th.
so the balance on that Lead Safe program account, 226 on December 31st, according to the report that we got on February 25th, is zero.
We need one more though.
So were there more expenses that came in that required that you transfer money into that account?
well, have you taken a look at the other numbers there?
Mayor Sarin, I cannot see that, I'm sorry, I can't see that, and I'm really trying to depend on,
Well, I'd like to, I don't have what you have in front of you, in front of me. So if we could do a compare on what you're looking, now these are the most updated numbers. So if
Mayor Sarin, please, I am sorry. I was really hoping we would get the revised December 31st report today, because that's what, for us to put all these bits and pieces together, sir, is very complicated and very difficult. So do you have this posted on the website,
Ma'am,
reflecting the transfers out?
I just handed
that is what that's what Mr. Phelps just handed to you.
Yeah, those two documents are what, that's what that is.
So after $5 million has been transferred out of Fund 101, we still have $27,301,204 in the general fund. I don't understand that. Because on the report that we got on the 25th, we had $27,512,788. I would have expected that number to go down because of the transfers.
Okay.
That's why I'm having problems following.
Well, if you'll recall, between the time on December 31st, when the administration was mandated to provide council with a report about transfers, which we did, we included a caveat that on December 31st, there's no possible way for us to have end of year actuals because we're still in the middle of the year, but we were required by the legislation that council provided to provide a report about transfers. Now, at that time, we provided council with the transfers, but with an addenda that we would be providing additional transfers, a list of additional transfers to make sure that council was fully appraised of all of the transfers that were necessary to be made. Now, we provided additional fund summary with additional transfers included, and I told council at the time that we would be providing that updated list of transfers as soon as we were certain about what those numbers would be, what you've gotten that has not been distributed to the rest of council just yet, but will be. I just need to do some formatting so that they can see the fund descriptions and not have to rely on a key like I did with you. That is the final list of transfers that we made for end of year 2024, so that we could then avoid the additional negative balances. But you wouldn't see them on the fund summary that you're looking at from this year, because that was made with additional transfers that had not yet been reported to council yet. Is that clear? I can provide additional, maybe I can rephrase. So we provided a preliminary list of transfers on December 31st
Right, I
as
have
we
them
were,
here.
expected to by council.
Yes,
But on December 31st, we can't provide you a complete list of the potential transfers because we don't have it yet. That data's not available yet because we're still in year. We're not even to a point where we can close out 2024. Subsequent to that, and at the time, you will all remember that in that email itself, I provided to council an explanation that we would have to provide a subsequent list of complete transfers once we were able to determine what all of those needed to be. Okay? So, in the interim, before we provided you that second final list, which you've received, that second final list of end of year transfers, we made transfers in order to achieve the objective, and we provided continually updated data in the fund summary, a variety of other tables that we've provided to council and the public that rely on that up-to-date information that hadn't been delineated to council, hadn't been outlined to council in the form of a list of transfers until now. So now you have the list of transfers, but in the intervening time, we didn't want to slow down the process and we wanted to continue updating with the most up-to-date information that we had. So things like this fund summary were updated. Things like the financials, we're providing those from numbers that we are running at the moment. So now you've got the transfers that speak to the fund summaries and the financials that you've been provided. And now this most updated set of financials that allows you to get a complete picture of our expected revenues in 2025, our budgeted expenditures according to the appropriations ordinance, and our final end of the year 2024 financial statements, which you now have in your hands.
so you can say with certainty that the unencumbered general fund 101 balance right now is $27,301,204.
What I can say with a level of comfort, because I don't do certainty, what I can say with a level of comfort is that the beginning fund balance, January 1, 2025, is $27,301,000, $301,059.01 at the beginning of January 2025, including the total 2024 actual spend and encumbrances.
President Kudo.
I'm gonna try to get to your question. So are you saying that the transfers, the 5.4 million in transfers that you texted, Chair Larson, is that just moves money? It wasn't additional expenditures in transfers out, it was just moving monies from one fund to another. So that's why the unencumbered balance stays the same. That's the question.
No.
Okay.
That's not the explanation. The explanation is that you were provided information that included transfers, but you hadn't been given the new list of transfers just yet.
Right.
Now you have both the chair has the list of transfers. And I suppose she could pass it on if she wanted to immediately, or I suppose I could just forward it to all of you.
I would
I was hoping
appreciate
to
it.
clean it up a little bit, but I wanted to get her the data as quickly as possible, but I can just forward it all your way. So no, that is not the explanation. The explanation is that the information that you received about the unencumbered balance included transfers that did not appear on the list that you received on December 31st, 2024.
That helps. That last sentence.
Yes.
Everything before that, my head was spinning.
And it's cumulative too.
All right.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So I'm looking back at the summary fund report, if I'm calling this document correctly, that you gave us back on February 4th, 2025. And if I'm reading this correctly, at that point, it had revenue year-to-date for last year of $102,773,000. This report that we got today has got less revenue. I'm sure the numbers are here. What principally accounted for that?
If it's my report, I probably did something in error and reduced the revenue from the general fund. I didn't have a transfer in, transfer out for the two documents I gave you. But I probably took the revenue inadvertently from the general fund. I think that's what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm just noticing
I think that's
there's a
what you're saying, yeah.
significant difference.
Yeah.
And the expenditures from this report for 2024 were noted at $92,740,000, and in the report we got today, the expenditures are listed at $98,333,000.
I'm just gonna run an expense ledger.
You'll get the 98,333. I ran it already.
I know. But I want to take you guys through this. So,
Mayor, we have exactly 8 minutes.
okay, so I guess we're not going to be taking through this.
We are meeting again on the 11th.
All right, any other questions then?
Well, just a quick question. So, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but I think we were told previously that what we were given before was pretty reliable and pretty close to where the final reports were going to be, with the exception of one or two items. With respect to what we were given today, can we count on this as being now close to 98% accurate?
Yeah,
terms of
and that has our
everything?
benefit.
Okay,
It's
and one
fund-
other question,
Fund
quick.
241.
With respect to the expense budget report that I got, do you guys have the ability to run it in this format?
Yep.
Which is much easier to read and, for me to read and understand than the one that we were given today in Excel, with the headings and the different breakdown, so it's easy to compare.
You just want the expense worksheet.
And just in this format, if we can get it in this format.
I can't give it to you in that format.
No,
Why
no,
are-
we can give it to him in that format.
It won't tie.
It won't tie, but we can give it to him in that format.
Okay, yeah, we can give it to you. Yeah.
Thank you. It's easier to compare
But
than
won't you,
what we were given before.
but if you get that report and it doesn't tie, won't that be problematic for you?
When,
That will have to be a discussion that we have on the 11th, I suppose, because we don't.
What I
have
told you?
Yeah.
Okay,
it won't do what?
it won't tie.
The limitation in the system is if an account wasn't budgeted for, when you run that worksheet,
Okay, forget it. I'll
won't- it
work
won't
with
show
what
up.
we've got and I'll do the best that I
We
can.
do have an expense ledger that does tie.
That's not what we got today in the Excel. That's something different.
No, that is the ledger. The ledger does show the 90,333,129.
I'll work with what we got today. Thank you. I appreciate the hard work you guys are doing to try and get us this stuff. Really do. It may not seem like it.
Mr. Ike, you have a question?
I have several questions, but I'll probably have to table them. And I'm actually getting together with the administration on Wednesday morning
Fabulous.
to go through things, so.
Thank you.
I just have just a quick question for today. Are you guys still working through closing then 2024, or like what we've received today is pretty rock solid, or is it like we're still working through things?
I think 2024 is pretty rock solid.
I'd like to make sure that we all get the digital copy of what we received today on hard copy, including Mr. Posh. He did have a question that he wanted me to remind you that he's asked, and that he has asked for the details of the quote, other than departmental expenditures for 2024. So if there's a report that he could look at for that, I'd sure appreciate you let Counselor Posh know that. I have not received a response about asking for the details of encumbered funds. The email I sent, and I also asked about an accounts payable item for for Friends of Kane Park that hasn't been paid from 2024. So I sent my email on, I don't have the date, but it was last week. So if you could look at that email, I'd appreciate it, Director Hairston. Councilor Petrus.
Thank you. I have a question about the appropriations ordinance. Is it okay if I ask?
You do get the answer in 5 minutes? Yeah.
Looking at the originally proposed ordinance from last year and looking at the newer one, I noticed that there is a label that is different, and so I'm just curious to know which one it should be. So for example, it said in the first one, it had a label of sewer maintenance, and that line totaled about 2.3 million. And in the newer one, it says street maintenance, the same amount. That's separate from the 2.3 million that seems to be, that's being requested as part of the capital.
So that's what we call a clerical copy paste error that the former finance director made in producing that original version, which I corrected when I introduced my new version.
Okay, so in the new version, there are two different street maintenance lines here. One is about 2.3, the other is almost exactly 2.3. So there are two different items that collectively add up to about 5 million.
Can you show me what you're looking at?
Yeah. So this is the new appropriations ordinance. Looking at the old one, there's the sewer maintenance, 2.298. Here it is with the same 6208, but with the new label, street maintenance. And this is different and separate from the 2.3 million that's being requested. Well, 2.45 million that's being requested for street
Can you tell me
surfacing.
what funds these are in?
This is, the 2.45 is in 201, and then
201, for everybody's edification, is our streets fund.
And then the other one is coming out of the general fund, the 2.298.
And that's in what department again?
6208, street maintenance. So here's the old one, 6208 sewer maintenance.
Don't worry
Here's
about the old one. Let go of
6208.
the old.
Okay.
Look at the current.
6208 street maintenance, just under 2.3 million. And then here's the 6236 street
So we've got our
surfacing.
annual street surface, and then we've got
And I was assuming that this is the capital request.
in part, so this is multiple capital requests actually. So one of them is a capital request for 2.3 million
Right.
in our annual street surface. The other, I believe, is $150,000. That is a capital request for outside engineering in service of the street work that we'll be doing in our Safe Streets for CH program.
But what about the 2.29?
In street maintenance
Yeah.
for $1.9 million of personal services, so salaries and benefits, and then $356,000 or so of other than personal services in street maintenance. That is a wholly separate situation. That's
Okay.
salaries contracts and materials, tools and supplies, so on and so forth.
And that's like the filling the potholes portion, not the contracts that Director
Could be
Flickscale
that,
was talking about.
but could be that, but it is the street maintenance portion, the vast majority of that is salaries.
Okay.
So that's 1.9 million.
So between the two, it looks like collectively, we're spending about 5 million across all of those different activities.
Yeah, I don't know that that's an accurate portrayal, and the reason why is because when we do other projects, like water line projects, sewer line projects, we are also including.
Gentlemen, I'm so sorry, I apologize profusely there, sorry for interrupting. I have to adjourn this meeting at 5:55. I'm so sorry. Perhaps you can continue that conversation offline,
Okay,
all right?
I don't know if that's appropriate. I know that there was some determination about how council would work through this. I don't wanna step on anybody's toes. So I'm gonna hold off until we sort out exactly how. I know I made an offer to work with council members individually, but I'm not exactly sure that that's appropriate at this point. So maybe we can have another discussion about what council members are allowed to do.
On the March 11th, does that work?
Maybe, it depends on who I need to ask about what individual council members are allowed to do. But I know you need to adjourn, so
Yes, this meeting is adjourned at 5:55.